Mr. Agbaje. Now, with what we have seen so far, the National Assembly made some very categorical move. They asked for the takeover of the running of the River State House of Assembly. Also, they urged the Inspector General of Police to redeploy Mr. Joseph Umbu. With all these that is going on, do you think this particular decision of the National Assembly is in favor of any person on either of the divide in River State?
Well, I mean, no doubt that decision is, I would say, to the advantage of the pro-Amechi legislators, but it is the right decision under the circumstances. For them, you had a lot of weight. I mean, you know, you can't continue to have a situation where we look at our police force. You have security aides of the governor, you know, beating up legislators. You have policemen on the other side, the same Nigeria police force, sitting down and looking at things as things go haywire. It's not good for the country. It's not good for our psyche. And like I said, the best decision was what the Senate, and I aligned myself with the position of the Senate on this.
Some people will say maybe the favored one in this matter has had his way to influence the lawmakers. Do you think this could have happened?
No. What I'm saying is the decision was the right decision, but the truth is that it favors the pro-Amechi legislators in the sense that there's a lot of might coming, even though you had 5. But there was a lot of force. I mean, you saw what Governor Amechi has been up to in the last 1 week. He's done no governance. He's gone to the UK for a BBC talk. He's gone to this and to that. And so you find that he's under so much pressure. This gives him some breathing space. And that's why I say, in a way, it is to his advantage.
Even the senators were saying, they said there that there is some relationship between the president and Mr. Amechi in this particular matter. But the president has come out to say, I'm not involved in all of this matter.
You know, when I started, I said politics it's all a power play. And that's what politicians do. So you never admit that you are playing this power game. But we all know what has been happening. But again, it goes deeper. I mean, people say it started with the Governors Forum. It didn't start with the Governors Forum. It started long ago. And it's still going back to the politics, to our politics, the way we played the democracy. People forget how Amechi became governor. The reality is that he became governor by the Supreme Court judgment. In becoming governor, he more or less was able to eliminate all the power blocks that were at play in River State and became more like the power. And more or less, all the others were like driven out. Now, for those ones, it's payback time. And so, you know, you have to go back. And that's because, you know, when you want to build something on nothing, you will always have this kind of crisis that we're having today. Whereas if things had been built properly, if, for example, he had, for those who remember the story, when he was supposed to have been made the governorship candidate, if that had gone on, which was the due process, then others would have been part of the process. He would not have been this singular, powerful governor who more or less controls the House, who was Speaker. Don't forget that he was Speaker of the House. So becoming governor, he was able to have a good hold also on the House of Assembly because they were his people. Coming back to being elected or re-elected, it was easy to kind of push away the Wikis who were politically rooted to Abuja, believing that, well, it gave him more powers in his state. Nobody could contest with him. Even the opposition in River State was really controlled by him.
With what? I mean, the issues you bring in forth now, from Mr. Amechi's profile, you of course know that at some point he was a personal assistant or he worked in the hospital of the former governor, Odili,
Yes.
Peter Odili. At some point, we know of his close relationship with the former governor, and a lot of people will attribute his political growth and development in that state to Mr. Odili. But at some point, a lot of people will say maybe Mr. Odili is really behind all his troubles.
Yeah, that's why I say it's payback time.
Really?
Yes.
You think all this is probably...
No, that's what I'm saying, that the Governors Forum, yes, is one of the issues, but that's not where it all started. It started long ago. I mean, you heard the First Lady talking about demolishing and not demolishing. So there's so many things that have come to play. And, you know, it's payback time. That's the way they know how to pay back. And if you listen to the elders, the River State elders, who went to visit the president, and I think Governor Dini that you're mentioning was there. And if you read between the lines, it was like, well, we're now back. You know, we that couldn't go back to Port Harcourt, we're going to see the end of this gentleman because elections are around the corner. You know, so you've got to look at it from that perspective. It's unfortunate because, like I said, for me, Governor Mechi is one of the very good governors we have had in terms of governance in Nigeria. It's played out in a way that if we're not careful, he's not going to govern. You know, it's going to be all politics till 2015.
Right.
And that's why the Senate decision becomes good for the people. Because with that, there will be room to sit down and talk and, you know, kind of come to some kind of a compromise. It maybe he would stay in the party, maybe he would even leave the party, but at least there'll be some measure of peace that you can have some governance. Because the key is that the people must have governance.
All right, let me go to our Abuja studio where Honorable Idahosa is standing by. Apparently, in all of these things that we have seen in the past few weeks in River State, definitely the people of River State may be paying a lot with all of this situation. With all this situation and the taking over of the running of the house, what is the consequence on that man on the streets in River State?
Well, I think the consequence there will be a bit of confusion and inefficiency in the sense that you cannot be making laws for the good governance of the state from this distance in Abuja. It will mean that it's not likely that that proximity which is required between legislators and their constituents will be enjoyed. So invariably, members of the National Assembly from such states will have to sacrifice their time and get into more contact with the constituents so that they can keep the National Assembly abreast with the yearnings of the states in order for the Assembly to respond positively either by motions on the floor of the House and eventual resolutions or by proposing bills to deal with the day-to-day requirements of that state. This is not the type of situation envisaged in the type of presidential democracy that we operate, and that's why it is a regret when we allow the politics of persons or the politics of interest to override the politics of the people and the politics of institutions. If we were in more developed clime, this would not happen. If it does happen, civil societies and many more interest groups will come down heavily on the perceived actors, but instead what we have here is that people have been hired to take various positions to defend the interest groups as if this is a battle of one person against another, rather than to look at this as if it is the promotion of democracy regarded as one of the best forms of government in the world, and having embraced same, as a people, we ought to collectively defend those rules which make democracy a preferred method of governance in the world. So my take is that the Senate and the House of Reps will do everything in their possible best to normalize the situation in that state. The first thing to do there is to ensure that security is normal, and that will mean that the resolution of the Assembly that the Commissioner of Police from that state be removed, be effected forthwith. And now once that is done, a security chief who can win the immediate confidence of the citizens of that state will assume duty, and then